because when you okay, I'll start because you trust the governor to do things the right way. That's why you elected a governor, or that's why you elected Orange Bear to be your governor, because you trust him to make the right decisions. You trust him to not put himself in a position where he can control the DOJ excessively. So that's just one thing that we trust the governor to do, among other things. Now, this again, like you said, is a little slippery slope because there are pros and cons for each side. However, now I will say it does enrich the independence of the DOJ when you have it set up to be elected. But I also will say that it encourages the Attorney General to do actions publicly as it helps him to be reelected. And so the way that I see that becoming a problem is near election season. The Attorney General might try to tailor his actions to not prosecute people that might vote for him, because then he would obviously lose a vote, etc. It actually discourages prosecution because that's just another voter that Attorney General has lost, especially in Clark County. Now, in real life, this would be probably a lot more of a viable discussion, but in Clark County, we don't trust elections as much because we know things go on.
Will someone be my friend?
I can be your friend.
I'll be your
Thanks.
friend.
Yeah.
I don't really have friends.
Okay. This is a safe space.
Thanks. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye. That's really the primary issue. I think it really does allow political parties to have kind of a stronghold on the AG. And I think it's safer to have the governor have that say over the AG.
All right. With that, we'll move into questions from the audience. If you guys have a question, just raise your hand.
Hand raising is
Is
disabled.
it actually?
Apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just ping me if you want to talk. All right. Not his feelings. I'm inviting you to speak.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'm officially not dead anymore.
Welcome back to life.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Revived. Definitely a number of things to consider here. I think fundamentally, is it dangerous to have the AG under the governor? Yes. Yes. It is more dangerous to let the AG be subject to direct review by recall by the people. If the Attorney General is doing their job right, there is times where someone will be prosecuted that has well-connected friends in the community, that has friends who will band together to encourage recall efforts. And seeing it's entirely all too easy to recall people here because it's literally a reaction on a Discord post. We're going to turn over AGs all the time. Because the wrong person gets prosecuted. We end up with a justice system that cares not about, any element of a crime committed, and cares only about the status of the person and how well connected they are. I think if you elect the AG, you kind of fuck yourself over in a group that already doesn't really care about justice at all.
Thank you for your insight. As a former Attorney General who was probably the most public and politicized attorney general of recent memory,
Mhm.
do you think that being an appointed attorney general, what's the word I'm looking for, clouded your judgment on the Sheriff Tom case in particular?
No. When I became Attorney General, what I told Orange specifically was that the minute he stepped into my decision making, I'm out. And he didn't. He requested to be informed of major developments, which is fine. I'm happy to inform. But there was not ever a time where the political establishment of this group influenced a decision to charge or to not charge. Where, on very clear evidence, that members of the court played parts in LCPD to secure an otherwise valid, but definitely procedurally deficient arrest warrant against me. Right? Why would they go through all that trouble if they could just recall the Attorney General when they're investigating something they don't like? All we're going to do by creating an elected AG is make it so that the people who disagree with the Attorney General will just seek their recall. And that's it. We don't gain, any worthwhile element of independence because they're just not beholden to the governor. They're beholden to random mobs of people. It's not hard to recall somebody.
It's not. I think recalls are a debate for another time on a potential amendment.
I don't think so. I think if you want to make it elected, then you have to talk about recalls because that's the logical consequence.
No, it is a logical consequence. You're right. I meant more so in the right that the recall system needs a reformation, as it is. I mean, you've said it multiple times. It's way too easy. I mean, a third of the total number of votes casted, or 300 signatures, which is very easy with an add everyone ping, as we've seen previously. But no, I appreciate your insight. I think that
I think we should take all the executive power and consolidate it in lame memes himself. He can just run every department, the whole group, right through the owner, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Derogatory. Do you have any questions or comments for?
I have a comment. I think that when we're talking about the recall problem against the governor problem, and we're using this belief that the AG somehow has to please the governor to stay in office, I want to also point out that instead of having to just please the governor, the AG would be tasked with tailoring his decisions to please how many people are in this group? Like, definitely a lot. Let's see.
I think it's 15,000 in the Discord.
Along those lines,
probably.
let's point out that if you like, there's not a general consensus that crime is even bad here. You elect attorney general, you elect a sheriff in real life, they stop crime. People are like, yeah, that's good, because the overwhelming majority are not doing crime. Everyone does fucking crime. Everyone. And if we're gonna say here that the people doing crime aren't enough to push a lot of public opposition to the attorney general for just doing what we expect them to do, right? If we say that the attorney general prosecutes criminals, you shoot someone in broad daylight, the attorney general prosecutes you, all the criminals can just gang up against the attorney general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've seen that with Offer Gav.
We've seen that with Offer Gav, and we saw that with the 1 mega. And
so it's not even theoretical at this point.
It's
happened. He got
possible.
elected.
Anyone,
Possible.
it's not
Again,
possible. It's plausible.
it's possible, but I don't think
I've seen
personally.
it.
If you look at the last Senate election, right, with the one Mega only got 83 votes before he was disqualified. That would have only placed him in third. I mean, Pseudonol and Brit Tate, who would have obtained the legal vote, I'm assuming, given their statuses in the community, they both would have had more votes from him. I don't think that the criminal aspect of it is large enough to influence an election as large as Attorney General, Sheriff, Secretary of State. I mean, this argument could be made for the sheriff election, and we've trusted the system to allow for sheriff elections so far.
But it's not the same, right? We are differentiating what the job actually is. The sheriff's job is to fight crime in game. No matter who you elect as sheriff, they're gonna send police officers out. They're gonna send out the deputies, and they're gonna like arrest criminals. They're gonna shoot people. Bing, bang, boom, you're done, right? If you get a favorable attorney general candidate in office, they will focus solely on the white collar, so to speak, crime. They're going to focus on civil rights. They're going to focus on police brutality. They're going to focus on drug trafficking, right? And they're going to ignore murder. They're going to ignore the things that you want them to ignore because your voting bloc pushed the preferable candidate in office. I'm not saying that having the AG appointed by the governor is great. I think it's objectively pretty bad, but electing them is far worse.
Oh, I think it'd be beneficial to the conversation if it's okay with both of you to bring Justin D20 up. He was a former
Yeah,
attorney general who
wasn't he
was
AG for like
removed
1 day?
from some of the.
Well,
Yeah,
I
so I
think
think he's
something
inside.
happened
Who
where
was the
he
1 day
did
attorney
something
general?
bad.
I forget.
He was Justin. You're on the stage now.
Avengers Assemble is crazy.
Can y'all hear me? What's up, guys?
Yo,
Hello.
So I just wanted to pop in. I have so much respect for Derogatory and Walter. I've known both of them for a very long time. Feels like forever now. And I think that you guys both pose some pretty valid points as far as the shift from governor appointed to election. I mean, we run into this recall issue. It seems like with the majority of the attorney generals, where there's at least one petition that comes up to get attorney generals removed, at least in past Mayflower states. But I think that there's also another side to this that maybe our other attorney generals here have not experienced, which was something that I had to experience not very long ago. Um, I have a lot of respect for Orange. I think he's a good governor. I have a lot of respect for our current attorney general. I think he's an awesome pick. I have a lot of respect for Walter because I think Walter has also done a great job in his past tense as attorney general. I think what we're facing now is something that we haven't ever had to deal with, which is the potential politicization of the position itself. And I know that you guys think that moving it to an elected position creates that, but what I experienced during my stint as acting attorney general, I think was probably worse, which was there were repercussions based on a staffing decision I made. Um, you know, I stayed somewhat quiet after my stint just because I didn't feel like there was a need to bring everything up all at once. And I understand some of the reasons why Orange made the decision that he did for the time. He didn't think that my confirmation was going to go through, which was probably valid at that point. And it was all a timing issue. But I was removed because the legislature wasn't going to approve me because I did try to remove somebody that was prominent, which is another issue that we will continue to face with attorney generals when it comes to MBI directors, um, prominent officials in staffing positions. I mean, we've seen in other agencies before. I tried to remove an MBI director because there was clear misconduct. My timing was not prime, but when I was being met with day after day disregard for the authority that me and my deputy at the time had, there was only one option. I mean, it was NBI hiding case files from us. It was the NBI limiting our access. So there was really only one way forward. We tried to mediate, didn't work. And so then I ran into the issue of, oh, well, the governor's retracting my nomination or removing me because the NBI director's throwing a fit. So then I guess I posed the question, and again, no disrespect to Orange. I mean, we're long past this now. But then the question becomes, well, what if we run into a governor who maybe wouldn't have had as good a reasons as Orange, maybe just wanted to remove an attorney general because they didn't like them or because they were prosecuting a friend, or maybe the governor himself had committed crimes. Then you run into the issue of, well, attorney general is a political position because it is appointed. I mean, it could serve at the pleasure of a party just as an elected attorney general could. So then I guess I posed the question to derogatory and Walter, well, then what do we do at that point? Because it's kind of a lose-lose situation at this point.
Yeah.
I mean,
So at that point, you recall the governor. I mean, there's a reason that every president in the history of the United States, except the one who's currently like, going on a little tyranny episode, has generally respected the independence of the federal Department of Justice, right? Even though they're appointed by the president, right? The president has recognized that, um, there's a certain element of independence that has to happen in order for that institution to be legitimate, right? And we see it right now, in the federal government in real life. The Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security together um, are not seen as very legitimate right now, right? They're seen as attacking political enemies, right? And
I
I
could,
think if the
yeah.
president of the United States wanted to recall it, there would be, a very valiant effort to do that right now. But we can recall the governor here, and I think that's what would happen. I also think that, if the governor is going to remove the attorney general based on some kind of action, say they're like prosecuting the governor's friend or whatnot, um, it's quite easy to go to the press with that. It's quite easy to
yeah,
testify to
I,
the legislature
I
about that.
think it's easy to say that now in this current state. I mean, now
Yo,
we're
pull
both
up Sato. Pull up Sato.
now
He
we're
was
no.
the he was the one day attorney general. He has a voice.
I mean, it's easy for us to say
Invited.
that now, Walter, but then you run into the issue of then it becomes
How are we doing?
then you
Attorney
lie.
general.
Good.
What's going on,
Attorney
dude?
general. I need Colombian in here, dude.
No, fuck that guy.
Anyways,
Let's get a little bit back on track,
Go ahead,
guys.
what I
go
was
ahead,
saying
Jason.
is I think it's easy for us to say that right now, Walter, but then it turns into a lose-lose situation. You have a competent attorney general that's no longer in office. You have a department in disarray, all